Are you looking for an injection of Cincinnati soccer? You have found it. We slapped the talk on the end, and that's exactly what we are. We have gathered up soccer minds that happen to also be free on Monday evening to give us the lowdown and talk the hits of the past week on the Cincinnati soccer scene. I'm Boston Brazel, and we appreciate you tuning in tonight live on the social medias, or as most of you prefer it, that late stage audio podcast. There is no wrong way to CST, but there is a wrong way on the table, and FC Cincinnati finally hit a misstep this weekend. I think I speak for everyone when I say that was a fun 4-game run, and it took some wonder goals and a great match to end it. So that is kind of what we want to talk about here tonight. What happened? What's the plan now? FC Cincinnati has one more match before a small break, a summer window. This season is far from over and is going much better than most of us expected. So let's bring in these sucker minds because I'm interested in a lot of things tonight, and we want to dive right into it. First, we bring you a man that writes killer weekly Wednesday features over on the website, Nate Gilman. I appreciate your statistical analysis, and I hope you are as elegant with words as you are your fingers.
Yeah, we'll see. No promises. Happy to be back. Couldn't join for a couple of weeks and missed out on all the wins. Hopefully later in the season there's some more 3-point results to talk about that I can make. Happy to be back and ready to get going.
So you had to write a bunch back when FCC wasn't doing as well. Is it more fun?
Yes, it is, and it's a lot more fun to watch. It's a lot more fun to break down things that are going well, and actually get to be like, all these players are actually playing well tonight or this week. And sometimes it's hard to narrow down who to write about. Hopefully more of that to come. Still don't exactly know what I'm going to write this week, so we'll see. Hopefully this conversation tonight can inform it a little bit.
All right. Yeah. We'll have plenty of stuff on this. How about anything I shift too fast on you tonight? Then you can switch to it. If Jeff Tebbets was writing this week, we know it would be about the New England Revolution. I'm trying to figure out if he's here to talk about Cincinnati or rub our faces in his old team's victory.
Read the room here. I mean, I'm not here for the Revs. I'm not here even for FC Cincinnati. You should know by looking at the jersey here. I'll back off the mic a little bit here. Nice one, son. Hey, nice one, son. Nice one, son. Hey, let's have another one. All right. Oh. Yeah. The Spurs won this weekend. They're in the Champions League. I'm very happy. I think I'm just here to rub it in for a few of the Gunners that are listening to us tonight. I'll play that role.
Well, if there were any, I think they've logged off. So,
bye, guys.
Well, good for you and good for your team overseas. But we'll keep it on this side of the pond for the rest of the show. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, Jason, welcome back. You've been a staple here around here lately.
Yeah, it's. I was thinking it was maybe like a 1 or 2 week contract, but apparently I'm coming back.
There you go.
I'm like what is it when you residency in Vegas? I'm here all the time.
Shaved face and all.
I know.
What happened to it? Did the wife tell you to shave your face?
Oh no! See, the thing is, she doesn't like it at all. Or when I shave.
Oh really?
Yeah, but it's hot. It was hot, and I needed to, freshen up a little bit. But it'll come back. I need to give the illusion of a jawline again. So
yeah, you got a reminder you're still young under there.
Yeah.
Well, as always, we're sponsored by our friends at Suero X. This week, they continue to release new flavors and let us know. Lemon Lime, I think, is the newest, greatest, and best, but they have more coming, and I would check it out. You can use our code over on their website, CST22, for a discount. So we appreciate them for sponsoring us. Let's jump into our best and worst. FC Cincinnati go down 1 goal against New England. They get it back. They go down 2 goals versus New England. They get it back. And then in the 89th minute, Heartbreak City, another late goal loss, something we thought we might be past. Best and worst, we'll start with you, Jason.
Okay, great. My best, other than Alvis Powell's first half shot that I think landed up at the UC campus. Um, other than that, I'm going to go with Obi Wobodo. This guy has been just a revelation since he's come to Cincinnati. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about him later, but the presence he's given us in the midfield has just been exactly what we needed. The dude closes down attacking players so quick. He's so good with the ball. He's just good with distributing the ball. He's good speed wise. I was so happy to see how he played this past weekend. And unfortunately, it was the first game that he's played that we lost. Otherwise, we had won every game he had played in. The worst for me, it's the bench. I mean, we really don't have anybody to go to off the bench. It was nice to see Kubo come back, but we are only a few substitutions away from rolling out the team that we played in the last U.S. Open Cup game. And as we get deeper into the season, as guys get tired, as legs get worn out, that may come back to bite us. And I really hope it doesn't. But it just kind of showed where we're lacking. And right now, it's on the bench.
Cheer up. International duty's right around the corner, and we don't have many of them. Tabbits, you like to start with your worst. So let's go there first.
Okay, I'll do it in duplicate. First of all my Revs friends, why didn't you make the trip? Come on. I mean, I know, the tickets to come here are through the roof, but come on, get into a car, drive down here. It's not that far. It's only 1,000 miles away. Make the trip down to Cincinnati. My real worst is I think we saw the return of the questionable substitution pattern. Perhaps it was like Jason said, the lack of healthy bodies. Perhaps it was the absence of some essential players, or maybe we were haunted by some ghosts of our past. But if I had to find an adjective of it, it felt maybe Stomlish, maybe Japanese. It just felt that the substitutions that Noonan made didn't make much sense. He only used 3 of them. And by the time he used the third window, we really didn't have much of an attacking presence. We didn't have Vasquez out there. We didn't have Powell out there. We didn't have Baji out there. Probably 3 of the guys we really could have used to equalize late in the game. But for the best, I will say that compared to what we had with the U.S. Open Cup, this was a vast improvement. I mean, this did not look like the same team that lost 5-1 in Gillette Stadium. Nwobodo looked pretty good. Barreal has been having consistent games against the Revolution. Nelson put in some good numbers. This was a team that looked vastly improved compared to what we ran out there about 2 weeks ago. If, and this is a measured if Brenner was available, this is a draw or a win. I guarantee that.
Nate, I know we were talking a little bit about Brenner earlier. Let's go into your best and worst. Did he make one of those?
Yes, and I don't think people will be surprised to see exactly where he ended up. But to start with the best, and it's not exactly a 1 week one, but like I said, I haven't been on in a bit, and just to appreciate that we're almost 40% through the season and we're still watching meaningful soccer games in Cincinnati right now, and actually seriously talking about, and hearing the national media talk about whether or not this is a playoff team. And that is just such a breath of fresh air. It's such a difference from, where we've been for the entirety of this team's tenure in MLS. So just enjoying that and taking a moment to smell the roses, as it were. And then, yeah, like you alluded to, my worst involves Brenner. Just that the situation continues. It just doesn't look good right now from any perspective. Now that it kind of has officially spilled out into the public sphere, with the manager acknowledging that there was some internal discipline going on, and his agent coming back and trying to justify it. It's just not a great look, and especially at a time when he's been hurt, but FCC could really use him on the field. He brings something that no other strikers on this team really do. the goals haven't been there yet, but the chances have been, and we've been teased by it, but we haven't seen the payoff yet. So hopefully, kind of this tactic from management will work, and Brenner can figure out a way to get back on the field. And if he does really want to move away, that involves kind of recapturing some of his value that he's lost since he arrived last year. So hopefully they can figure out a mutually beneficial resolution to this. And if that involves him scoring a bunch of goals and leaving at the end of the year, so be it.
Yeah, I want to jump into that a little bit later as well, because it's a big topic this week. I think there's a lot of feelings, a lot of things about it. Even now, a rumor come out this afternoon, kind of revolving around Brenner as well. So we want to touch on all of those things. Best for me, we didn't fall too far in the standings now, did we? 4th to 6th. That's not too bad for dropping a game at home. I think FC Cincinnati did well to earn themselves some points early. And as we go into this break, it's looking like FCC should be in a decent spot. However, they play some tough opponents. So they got to win, got to get some points now. I'd love to see them get, in my mind, I was expecting at least a point or more against New England, and then you can maybe take that loss a little bit later against one of these tougher teams. So we'll see how it works. I want to fight and get some points back now to stay up towards the top of the table. Worst, I parked close to the stadium. Never park close to a stadium. You think I would know this, but the rain delay, I had the wife with me, and she said, so normally we park all the way across town at the casino, and we will take the streetcar or we'll walk if it's a nice day, stop and get some drinks and food on the way, take our time, and then after the game, we would rather walk than be stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's kind of our motto. So we walk like a mile to the casino, get in the garage, it's free, and then immediately you have an instant interstate exit right there if you live on the east side. So that's been my strategy for years. And this time, because of the weather and the rain, I gave in. I parked close to the stadium. What a nightmare. Took me forever to get out. Never doing it again, guys. Rain, be scared. But I did have a moral victory. I realized the game would not start on time, thanks to all the tweets that were coming out from everybody who was in the stadium already. So I chose to take the risk, go get sushi, not walk and lock myself in there. And it was an awesome decision. By the time I finished, I walked in the door. They were announcing the lineup, and I was good to go. So rain delay sushi is where it's at.
I mean, this was perfect for me. I was actually had to go to a small little gathering about an hour before kickoff, and I'm like, I don't want to cut it too early to leave the party. But when they announced the delay, I'm like, bartender, another old fashioned, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it a double.
I thought the rain would scare away more people, but the stadium was pretty full for having an hour rain delay. So I guess people just hung around, huh?
I think had it happened longer, like if the kickoff hadn't happened to like 9, people you would have had a situation like they had up in Columbus where they had like a 6-hour rain delay and like 5 people showed up, which is 3 more than most Columbus matches. So
sick burn thrown in there.
I think like Nashville had a similar situation. They had their game start at like 11 or something.
And theirs sucked too because it was national TV.
Right.
Yeah, it was on Big Fox, and they got in there for like 10 minutes, and referee blows the whistle, and they had to shut it down.
I saw LAFC threw shade at the entire state of Ohio because of the delay on Twitter. They were like, "Get it together, Ohio." I was like, "Well, we all can't be LA."
What's this weird stuff falling from the sky, bro?
Yeah, right. We have rain, and they could use more of it, I think.
Wait. How come the houses here aren't on fire? I don't understand.
Oh man, that's because we have rain. Oh man. Okay, let's jump into the Britter situation. We got to talk about it. Reportedly missed this match. The coach said it was due to an internal issue. He just wanted to leave it internal. But if you want to leave internal, why even bring it up at all? So then his agent has to do some clarifying. His agent comes out and says he just missed a training. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And, he'll be back soon. So he misses another practice because of the same issue. And then he is reportedly suspended for this game internally. So on the face, seems a little harsh, I thought, for an alarm clock buzzer beater. I mean, I don't get told I can't, finish the week out at work if I'm late because of my alarm clock. So I want to get your guys' theory on is it too harsh of a punishment, too light of a punishment?
I think it's just right. I think you gave him, I mean, as a new coach, I think you sort of have to put your foot down on some of these things. If it is a simple oversleeping, you could let that fly, but I think you want to sort of show that you have control of this team. And if it means, making an example out of your young DP, then you've got to do that. You've got to say, dude, this is the way things are going to be. Please sit down. Take the week off. We could have used him in this game, but the principle is the name of the game there.
Yeah, I just hope that it's that it truly is a one-off. I'm not confident that it is. It seems like if it was just he overslept one time, that you could actually handle it internally, like truly internally, and not tell the media that you were handling something internally and didn't want to talk about it. So I just hope that however they're handling this, so more in the public realm, that it works, and that they communicate whatever they need to, or whatever pressure is applied by making this more public than it was, has the desired impact. Because this team should be better with Brenner. I think we can all agree that, he's probably not at the level of a $13 million transfer, but I think the less time talking about that, the better. I think he still has the pedigree to be a very good MLS striker. It won't be, a guy probably resold for 25 like Miguel Almiron. But after that, who has been? That doesn't really exist in MLS. Like I said, you just hope that they come to some sort of resolution and get him on the field, and get him playing and get him scoring goals. And I think the relationship will improve if he's scoring goals and the team keeps winning.
Yeah, everybody's happy when when the team's doing well and you're a part of it. I think that's just the part. Brenner hasn't been a part of this new birth of FC Cincinnati, and it might be causing waves behind the scenes, of course. But if it is just an alarm clock, Jason, come on, man. Who among us has not?
I know. I hit snooze at least 14 times every morning. No, I agree with Nate and Jeff. I mean, I think you kind of feel for him, and we've talked about this for the past couple of years. You move to a different country, you're young. No one on the team is Brazilian other than you. I think only maybe one or two people speak Portuguese. It's got to be rough, and you haven't played as well as you had hoped. So that's got to be playing a little bit into it. I think he and his agent are probably playing a little bit of, I don't know about negotiation tactic or what, but maybe trying to just make it seem like he's ready to move on. And if that's the case, I'll be disappointed. I really liked Brenner. I thought he brought a lot to the team last year. And I agree. We're a much better team with him on the pitch, even if he's not scoring. But if he doesn't want to be here and the coaching staff isn't really working well with him, then we need to find a way to move on and free up that DP spot, because I think, there is room there to bring in another good DP that can really help this club.
Well, minor or major infraction aside, how much could the club have used him? Because this is where I kind of take a different approach than you guys, I think. I'm of the opinion that we just don't have time to play games with this locker room punishment stuff. And I get the whole set an example thing, but in my opinion, like, FC Cincinnati needed Brenner on that pitch against New England. They put in Bo as a sub who made all the difference in the world, and we threw out Ordinez, which had a good Open Cup game, but he's not there yet as far as our blockbuster coming in to get that third goal, and it didn't even come close to that. So, in my opinion, suck it up, Noonan. Put Brenner on the field because that's what's best for the team.
I think, though, it sets a bad precedent for the team, though. I mean, look at the other big personality on the squad. Look, Acosta. Lucho has been gone from being a guy that played, very self-centered style last year to being a guy who brings his lunch pail to the game every time. And you've seen a complete attitude turnaround from him this year. Brenner, he's kind of been the other big personality. And if you're the coach and you're like, hey, this is the standard I set. If you don't follow through, you're suspended for a match. You've got to follow through with that. I think at one point during the match, Noonan probably thought we could get away with a draw, but it is what it is in the end, I think.
And in the end, really, and this comes back to the substitution patterns. In the end, Noonan's got to really figure out that he's got to know, if I can't use Brenner, who's my best option? I know you don't have Brenner. I know you don't have Calvin Harris available, but there had to be something in place that he could do. He could bring in both Markinich and Ordonez in, put a two-headed strike force up front. Go for that. Go for the draw if you have to. Don't just wave a white flag and say this is the best we can do and not get any shots on frame in the last 15 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, well, I want to touch on this news real quick. I'm not sure how many of you guys have even seen it, but MLS news on Twitter, which these MLS news accounts are always tricky. So don't take this stuff for serious, because, and I want to talk about this for a second. This is really hard to pull off what he's saying, but striker Brenner is gaining interest from European clubs per his sources. Brenner is pushing for a move to Europe, but going back to Brazil is plan B. The 22-year-old will 100%, which I love that, 100%. I think national writers would be reporting on if it was 100%. That's my 2 cents. But will leave Cincinnati in the summer, barring anything unforeseen. Wait a minute, you just said it was 100%. That's the rumor mill right there. But I mean, roster logistics, that's hard to pull off.
I think it's impossible, basically. Because I mean, and if anybody can, correct me if I'm wrong here, but like if he goes on loan, they would need a pretty substantial amount of a loan fee, and somebody would have to cover a huge portion of his wages to get him off book as a DP. And he's making a lot of money. So I think it might be something like buy him down to like the salary, like the max salary cap hit, which is like 612, and he's making over $2 million. So if somebody's going to pay him $1.5 million to take him on loan for 1.5 million of his salary, whatever that is prorated over the second half, I don't see that happening if he's not playing. And then, I also don't see that ownership or the front office is willing to take a dive on this huge investment. Because I mean, right now, like, why would he have any value to any European club? It's not like European clubs are going to be lining up to pay $5 million for him. Like, that is still a huge transfer coming out of this league for really good players, and he has not been that so far. So I would take this with like an entire salt shaker of salt.
Yeah, the account that tweeted this is the only source I've seen, only English language source I've seen, and that's not to disparage non-English language sources, but that was 2 days ago. You would think you'd see Tom Bogert or somebody else follow through on that if there was any fire to that smoke. I don't think he leaves to Europe, and Brazil maybe is kind of plan B, but yeah, Nate hit the nail on the head. There's so much to be worked out there if he goes on a loan. He's not really worth a high transfer I say get him on the pitch and try to raise that value so you can move him.
Yeah, the account is 150. It's posted 154 tweets. It's got less followers than me, and nobody likes following me on Twitter. So
I do, Jeff.
Thank you. But so I mean, you can't trust this. Once again, I would say salt shaker, pepper shaker, the entire thing of Old Bay seasoning. Take all the condiments with that. This has zero reliability. And not to mention, they really haven't started Brenner in a game. And that's where I think he would have the chance to shine. Put him in the start of the game with Vasquez and then bring on Baji. I keep harping this, and they still don't use him that way. But give him a shot. If he's oversleeping, if he's not taking this seriously, put a little bit of trust in him and see what comes out of that.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm not trying to tear down any accounts or anything, but I did want to use that. You guys have asked us about it, especially even in the chat tonight, to kind of launch into this topic of his salary structure. Because I think as fans, and I've seen it on Reddit, I've seen it on Twitter, is why don't we get rid of Brenner? We can bring somebody else in. Because that is really easy to say. But FC Cincinnati got this guy for 5 years, and this is year 2. So, and they paid $13 million in transfer fee, which I get that's on Linder. So the way you would think about this is if FC Cincinnati is going to move on from Brenner, the owner says, okay, I threw $13 million out the window, and he will say that at some point. He did with a last DP. So there comes a point where Carl Linder's fine letting that money go. There is, and then I want to correct fans on this, there is no getting your money back. There is Linder getting some of his money back, but the salary cap implications of Brenner is only $600,000, as Nate said earlier. So that other money is not FCC money, really, not all of it.
I think it's actually less because he's a young DP. So he's under 23. So it's like $300K against the cap or something.
He's a really good cap hit.
Yeah.
He's a really bad investment for Carl Linder, but he's not a bad investment for FC Cincinnati. Right. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky because, yes, they're going to want to sell on fee. The original plan when they sold it to Brenner to come to America was come play for FC Cincinnati. You'll do well. And then we won't hold you for 5 years. We will let you go to Europe. Kind of use us as your launching pad. And that's how you get to Europe. Brenner said, all right. And his agent said, all right. And then he came here and he has not used it as a launching pad. He's used it as a dark hole to fall into. So,
yeah, and I think that's a really important point, and I saw it somewhere in the chat. Sorry, it's up there, and I can't find whoever said it. But don't hold the $13 million. Like he did not assign himself that amount of value. It is not his fault that he was bought for $13 million by the previous front office.
That's an agent doing their job.
Yes,
and getting that transfer fee up.
Yeah, and whatever the Brazilian team he came for is. Definitely grateful for that level of money, but he had no way of determining that for himself. So he probably should not be saddled with how much Nykamp chose to pay for him.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep about Carl Linder wasting $13 million.
And also very good point.
Yeah. They can probably find that in their couch cushions if they really want to. Or sell a boat. I don't know.
It was Rupesh. Thanks, Rupesh.
Yeah. But I know Nate brought this up. Maybe some people have talked about, can you just buy him out or something? We already have one guy on the roster that's probably going to take out that buyout clause this year. And you only get one per season, if I remember correctly.
And we've already used it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brenner, this is a Cincinnati thing, is people get just so wrapped up in these guys that have personality and are a little bit, full of themselves sometimes. And unless they are producing 100% of the time, like Chad Ochocinco was, then this town will turn on them so quick. And you've got Brenner, like you said, we've got him for 5 years. Just this is part of the growing pains of having this guy. He might turn it around. He might not. At least just ride it out this year because he's not, unless something drastic happens in the transfer window, he's not going anywhere. So just stick with it and hope that he does well.
Yeah, if his dreams are to go to Europe as Plan A, it's not going to happen this year. Not with the World Cup, starting up soon, and the need to sort of pause the season next year. If anything, Plan B seems more realistic. Him going back to Brazil, but I don't think you cut your losses that quickly. He's too valuable for this team right now. If you get rid of him, you're going to have even less depth on the bench. And so let's not be hasty in getting rid of him just because of this situation.
Yeah, the perfect deal would need to come along, because if you're saying, hey, Boston, if the $13 million doesn't matter, then what does matter? Then what does matter is the $2 million a year FC Cincinnati promised to pay him. And only 300 of that is a 300,000 is a cap hit, but they still do pay the rest in cash. So that would still be owed to Brenner per year for the next 3 years. So you're looking at about, I don't know, 6-7 million, depending on if that escalates per year. So into the story, that's still a lot of money. It's still a player that FC Cincinnati has tied down to. Even if they buy him out on the books, that means any other MLS team can take him with us paying the salary, just like that happened with Audi in Columbus. It didn't feel good to have Audi playing on Columbus when we were paying a salary. It would feel really, really bad if the LA Galaxy pick up Brenner and we're paying a salary. So that's all a risk. I do not see. I mean, I'll mark it down here. Brenner will not be bought out. It just doesn't make any sense. What you will possibly see theoretically is a trade, or it's got to be a trade, right? You can't loan a guy out that's going to come right back to you next year, and you're going to have him for 3 more years.
I mean, you could. You would just have to have a situation, because there have been times where, players in Europe get loaned out for multiple years and still stay on the squad. Like the guy I want to bring in, Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's been on the Spurs roster for a couple years now, but he's not played for Spurs for several years. I think you could do that. RSL did it with Brooks Lennon for a while. They transfer loaned him something to Liverpool, to their academy, and they were able to get him back after a couple of years. So I don't see him going anywhere until the end of the year. That's just what I think.
Yeah, I'm not even sure then. Attempts will be made. There will be clubs that call FC Cincinnati and say, hey, heard you got a troubled one-name Brazilian on your team. What can we do?
Yeah.
But
the circumstances are a little bit different, but this is playing out in an inter MLS way with Miami and Philadelphia right now, because Julian Carranza looks all the bit like a DP striker in this league, and he's like 22, and he's on loan from Miami because of their improprieties with the cap, and I think Philly has an automatic buy option, which is just like a very low, well, I don't know what the terms are, but it's not a huge amount of Don Garber funny money, but they're going to end up next year, all of this year on loan, and then after this with a young DP striker who looks legit.
Yeah. So long story short, could happen, but I wouldn't put super faith. I guess I just wouldn't put a lot of faith into it. I think the best thing for FC Cincinnati is for Brenner to get on the pitch and for Brenner to perform. That's the best thing for Brenner and for FC Cincinnati, because even if, let's say, Brenner is done with this club after this year and he's going to try to force a trade, better put some goals in a net so somebody will come knocking for a reasonable price, because you need the team to be able to get something back in order to release you.
And I may be wrong here, and if I am, please immediately correct me.
All right.
But isn't this the last year of Vasquez's contract, or do we still have him for another year?
So we've asked about this. We're not 100% sure. We believe this is the final year of Vasquez's contract.
Yeah,
but it is theoretically possible there's an option that we don't know about.
Right. And so we could be in a situation, summer transfer window or winter transfer window rolls around, where Brandon Vasquez is getting scooped up by LAFC or the Galaxy or somebody. And who's going to play striker? Probably that Brazilian guy that we paid a lot of money for.
Yeah, FC Cincinnati definitely needs to. If this is his last year, I am hoping some renegotiating is already taking place. It's got to be. All right. Real quick, do you guys want to talk any more about this game? One of the notes I had here that I kind of wanted to touch on was Baji. I think you mentioned him, Jeff, at the top of the show. But how do we get Baji more involved in these matches? Because I read Coach's article on the player ratings, and he had some great words that he mentioned last week as well. But Baji had so few touches. He was like the fewest touches of a forward in all of Major League Soccer, I think, on the weekend. But they were crazy effective when he had it, which I didn't notice that I noticed that Baji was kind of nowhere, which has happened for a couple games now. That it's like, where's Baji out there? But I didn't know how well he was playing when he actually got the ball, which tells me, like, how do we get this guy involved?
I still say, I think part of this is the whole Brenna situation where, you're using two forwards or strikers up top, and it's forcing you to play Baji early in the game when he's much more effective coming off the bench. Granted, he's had a really few good crosses this season to get himself on the assist board, but he hasn't scored yet. And I think he is better when he has to come in and extend a lead. I keep saying this. I want to see this happen. I want to see us be up 3-2 against the Revs, and then you bring in Baji and puts a fourth on the board. That's how we should be playing it. And unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond the team's control, whether it be injuries or disciplinary, they just can't play him in the right spot.
You're right. He doesn't have a goal. He had one. It was taken away, wasn't it?
It was an own goal.
That's what it was. I was like, you're wrong. And I looked it up. I was like, wait a minute. He's right.
Against Montreal. Yeah.
David in the chat brought up something that I noticed this past weekend was they did seem to be working Barrial's side of the pitch a lot more. Whereas earlier in the season, they did seem to play it a little bit more to Baji's side. Maybe it's just a comfort thing right now with Lucho and Barrial. But yeah, I think I did notice that. So maybe there is something that we're not seeing, that Lucho and the rest of the guys are just not as comfortable playing it Baji's way. But 100% in agreement with Coach Noonan. We do need to find a way to get him the ball.
Yeah, I think he's it seems to me that he's playing a little bit out of position in this 4-2-3-1. He doesn't necessarily seem to be a winger like Barrial or there are a number of wingers on this team, but I guess I'll just stop with Barrial. But he like technically his first touch seems to let him down a little bit, and he's not gonna like face up a fullback and like take him off the dribble after a step over or something. It just doesn't really seem to be Baji's game. He's much better when he can out physical a guy like he did with his assist in whatever game it was to Vasquez, where he hip checked a fullback or a center back, won the ball, and then played an inch perfect cross across the 18 to Vasquez. But in possession, and this is another thing, they had the ball a lot against New England and didn't exactly seem to know what to do with it. This team just doesn't necessarily want to have the ball, which is not a bad thing. Philadelphia is still really good, and they like to counter press and to play direct. So breaking down a set defense is not going to be a situation where Baji excels. So yeah, I definitely agree with Jeff that if everything barring our last conversation about Brenner, if you get into a situation where you have Brenner and Vasquez starting up in a front two, and then you can just bring on Baji to take on tired center backs or fullbacks who he can win aerial balls against and really dominate with his physicality. I think the offense takes a step forward.
I wonder if now that you're seeing a healthy Kubo getting worked back in there, I wonder if now you start to alter that formation. If you start going back to the diamond that you wanted to depend on, we had all this talk about the 4-4-2 positioning with the diamond in the middle. I wondered if now you have a healthy Kubo coming on, you can try to work Baji and Vasquez up there as the doubleheader, or a Brenner and Vasquez. I'd like to see if we can start maybe playing that way now that we've got a little bit more stability in the center midfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good shout. I think coming out of this break, we might be a little surprised with what we see, and I know we'll have more time to just kind of jump on that. Montreal, I'm interested to see who we start there and what it'll look like. Baji, 22 touches though, just not enough. 22.
I wouldn't mind the 22, but it was lopsided. Barreal had 70 on his side. Then you take a look at the New England side, and Leggett had 27 touches. The guy Rivera on the other side had 26 touches. Buxa had 26 touches. Their offense didn't have a lot of touches either, and yet they were able to put three past our goalie.
Yeah, two of them being pretty good wonder goals.
Yep.
All right. Let's jump into a little bit of FCC, but also World Cup news, surprisingly. Vasquez misses the World Cup June camp, but Greg Berhalter said he was this close. He even held up a newspaper. So first off, let's give a shout out to Pat Brennan of the Inquirer for asking the question on the call. I know it's not easy to fit those questions. We've been on those U.S. men's calls before, and there's a lot of reporters asking a lot of questions. So shout out to Pat for getting in the Vasquez question. I don't know if you guys caught how cool that was, but that's pretty cool. And then they also asked Vasquez about it, which I thought was neat. And he had a really humbling answer. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Vasquez as well, because he said, hey, obviously it'd have been great to make it, but I'm just going to keep grinding. And I realize that the better I do, the more chances I have. And it's just a good way, I think, to take it if you're a Vasquez, especially when you get the salary data and you find out how underpaid you are. But did any of you hold out hope that he would make it? I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, like what we thought the chances were.
I wasn't surprised that he didn't make it, but there was a small part of me that was hoping he would, just because you do have a match coming up in Cincinnati in this June window. All I have to say now is Berhalter out.
Yeah, if whoever he picked better work out. There was some talk about, one of you guys mentioned that Vasquez actually might be a pretty good striker in the Berhalter system because of his hold-up play. Was that you, Nate?
No, but I think he would be a great striker in Berhalter's system because he is strong and physical and can hold the ball up when he needs to and lay the ball off to ball progressors further up the field. And then, like we've seen all season, he does a really, really, really good job when he's in the box of finding defenders' blind spots and getting open and scoring goals, which is exactly what you need when you're, potentially playing with dynamic wingers like the USMNT has.
Yeah, I've noticed a skill lately. His last two goals have come with two guys kind of in between him, and he split them. That header this weekend was amazing. I went back and watched it and couldn't figure out how he got open. Watched it again, still can't figure out how he got open. There's just white jerseys all around him. Do you have anything there to add?
I think basically when it comes to like the choices of Vasquez or maybe some of the other notable names, Haji Wright, who plays over in the Turkish leagues, he's had a monster season, 14 goals for his team. And Jordi Mihailovic for Montreal, he's been having an MVP caliber season. I think it's one of those situations where there was the opportunity to bring in some new players and sort of give opportunities for spots where players have gone down, but you weren't able to bring all three into the camp at the same time. I think there had to be an odd man out. And with Mihailovic playing so well for Montreal and Wright sort of needing to be that number 9, giving his first shot at being on this team, Vasquez was the odd man out. And maybe, who knows, maybe after this first friendly, Berhalter is like, well, this guy is injured. This guy has to sit down. Let's bring on Vasquez and see what he can do for us. There's that opportunity right there.
Maybe you'll see Montreal's record. They've lost 2 in a row. And once we beat them, once Vasquez beats them, then it's 3 in a row. So
Mihailovic still scored this past weekend.
Yeah, so. That's true. That's true. Speaking of World Cup, Cincinnati was in the conversation. Pat Brennan he's the man of the hour, I guess, was in the Inquirer today with an article on an update. The bid is, I guess, against Kansas City is what he seems to be implying. Cincinnati versus Kansas City is the main thing there. Pat, going against the national writers. A lot of the national pundits think Cincinnati is out. We talked about that 3 episodes ago, I think, about how we were just written off by Grant Wall and some of these other guys. But Pat is saying, whoa. Don't count Cincinnati out yet. There's a lot of big names working on this bid, and all of them seem to still be going like gung-ho for this World Cup bid. So any last minute Hail Marys you think we guys? I wrote us off. I'm not going to lie. I did.
I mean, there's going to be, I think, 6 U.S. cities that are going to be eliminated. And if you just kind of do the geographic math, one of those cities is going to have to be Cincinnati, Kansas City, or Nashville. I would hope it's Nashville because they're not a real city. They're a bachelorette party destination. And Cincinnati is actually closer to a lot more of the country. But Kansas City has hosted the World Cup before. I wouldn't completely count us out, but it's just part of the drawback of where we are geographically is that, we're not on the coasts and we're not a air quotes destination city. I mean, let's just be honest. If Chicago were in the running, we wouldn't have even been considered. So it's just nice to be nominated, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where I am. It'd be cool. It'd be cool if it happened, but I'm not holding out hope. And yeah, like you said, Jason, just happy to be here.
Well, you live in DC, so you'll be fine because
I'm going to some games. No,
I think they're
Baltimore.
I think they consolidated bids with Baltimore.
They have,
yeah.
So if anybody's concerned about Cincinnati not having good enough public transit, think about how whatever that bid would work. I guess you could take the markup, but
it's like, as much as I would like to give us a puncher's chance, compared to Nashville and Kansas City, I think Nashville gets it just because they've played games at Nissan Stadium. That they've shown where they can put on a good show there, and we really haven't had the chance to pull a game into Paul Brown Stadium and say, hey, this is what the experience is going to be like here. So I think we're sort of the odd man out, because while we can sell ourselves on our training center and TQL Stadium, that's not where the games are going to take place. Right. So I think we're the odd man out because of that.
And I know Nashville's pitching a replacement for Nissan Stadium, and I'm not sure if it would be ready in time for the World Cup, but that could also maybe play into it a little bit. Is they could have a brand spanking new stadium where we'll have, PBS is a fine venue, but it's 20 years old now. So,
yeah. Just to follow it up, Pat did say this whole conversation sounds like the doubts of MLS to Cincinnati, which also seemed unlikely to many at one time. I guess he's got a good point there. And he said he's still going to be shocked if Cincinnati doesn't get something for a World Cup. The people involved with the FC Cincinnati bet, and they bet big, and they win. And the 2026 Cincy World Cup, LOC includes Carlin to third and even more local and regional heavyweights. I don't think these people would lend their name to an iffy endeavor. Just my opinion.
I think the problem I see with that sort of logic is that you've also got, you look at the other teams that were into contention for MLS, Tampa Bay, Phoenix, Vegas at some point, Indianapolis. Those that aren't exactly the same things that are being advertised for World Cup. So I think it's apples and oranges as much as Pat is really trying to put a shine on this. I think that it's just not a good comparison.
Well, I think it's still up in the air until what, June
16th,
mid-June? Yeah. So we'll see. We'll have plenty. There'll be plenty more news to come out about this. And if Cincinnati gets written off, that's fine. I guess we will just all have to go somewhere else and watch some World Cup soccer. We got plenty of years to save up.
And I think there could be, like, there's a very real chance that there could be a team, if they don't get a bid, a team whose group, well, I think a lot of this World Cup, it's going to look a lot different than what we're all used to, just because it'll be the 3-team groups, and there will be so many more teams that there will be a lot more facilities that need to be used as base camps, and potentially even pre-World Cup friendlies. So I think there will be a lot of action around.
Consolation prize.
Yeah.
Real quick, we want to give you a Growler Cup standings update. Rob Gazelli, 4 points. Sarah Gorman, 4 points. You guys are in first place. David Tingler and Mark Neuenschwerner, 3 points as well. Lots of ones and zeros, including me. I have 1 point because I picked a draw, and we were so close. We were so close to the 2-2 draw I picked, but alas, 1 point instead of the 5 I would have gotten. Jeff Tebbets also would like to let you know he got 4 points, but I didn't write it down because I'm a bitter host.
Well, thanks.
We want to thank all of you that are participating in the Growler Cup and support Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So let's give a shout out to Ree Lee, John Davidson, Mike Hudson, Robert Stevens, Laurel Failer, Matthew Adamczyk, Riley Stephen Burke, James Denbro, Tom Newhouse, Brian Weigel, Brian Gills, Dan Alberts, Will Kychek, Ian Rexroad, Augustus Caceres, Bill Antonitis, Carl Feit, Jeremy Sharand, Kyle Pohl, Christina Sharma, Rupesh, Tom Beaversdorf, Jason, who is super average, John Haskell, Ryan Ernst, Mary Lou, West Anastasi, Rob Pierce, Clifford Adams, Thomas Thefts, Pierce Johnson, Mike Prentice, Mr. and Mrs. Wiederhold, Rob Gazelli, first place. And I lost my spot. Bradley Weigel, Kevin Day, Jamie Smad, Alex Carnegie, Mike Bowman, Patrick Lahani, Dave Tingler, Brett Sova, Chris Hubbard, Kevin Cooney, Joe Max, Jack Emery, Sarah Gorman, David Moore, Bob Ryan, Ryan Durkin, Bart Labita, and Mark Neuenschwerner. That is your Hall of Fame right there. All right, guys, I promised we'd get into this best 11. We, of course, are running out of time, but I want to touch it. I want to touch into it. We asked these three to come up with their best starting 11. Before the show, Jeff Tebbets was freaking out. He's stressed over there. He's had a really hard time putting it together. So the reason we're asking this question is I think we saw some guys come back this week. We've seen different versions of this roster. We kind of want to know what are your best 11. And even you guys in the chat, just shout out who you would put on the pitch right now if you're going into Montreal and you have all the options. You've got your Brenners back. You've got Kubo back. You've got I'm not going to allow Moderita. Sorry, Moderita's out. If you're out for the season, you're out. But everybody else is fair game. All right. Are you ready, Jeff? Oh, he's muted. Let's get him back in here.
Okay, I think so. I think I'm good. Okay. If we're looking at just the Montreal game, that's an easy one for me because, well, you probably won't have Cameron. So I would say, if we're going to do a general starting 11.
Yeah, let's go general.
Okay. Brenner and Vasquez up top. Acosta, of course, is the top there. I would play the diamond. So I would put Moreno in the back. I'd put Obi on the right, Kubo on the left, just because I think he's got a little bit more offense, or he's more 90 minutes than Barrial, I think. And then for your back, I would put Nelson. I'm going to put Murphy and Hags in the middle. They've shown that they can do it. They've shown that they've got the knowledge and know-how right now. Powell on the right, and I would put Khan in goal right now. I think we saw that Celentano is vulnerable. He's going to have a bad game. I want Khan to have that role until he proves that he can't do it anymore.
Man, you've already benched the kid.
There's a reason he's a kid. He can be benched.
Two of those goals, you can't blame on him.
But the last one you can. The last one you can. I think he had that one.
Well, he's not like Kenneth Vermeer, who dives the opposite way of where the ball is coming. So at least he's got that direction thing right.
Do you have Obi in there?
Yeah, I had Obi. Yeah, I had him on the right of the diamond.
I'm going to kind of second Jeff's formation, but my lineup is a little different. Obviously, you got Vasquez and Brenner up top as striker. I'd have Lucho as your attacking mid. I would keep our center mids the same as what we had this past weekend, or our two wing mids, I should say. So you'd have Barrial and Baji, if Baji's able to play that right kind of wing mid position. And I'd have Obi as the lone central defensive midfielder. I think he's got enough gas to cover a lot of ground, but that's a much more offensive minded kind of formation. And then my back four would be the same as Jeff. Hags and Murphy have really just locked down those two center back positions for me.
All right, no Cameron.
No Cameron.
All right, Nate.
He's a good sub.
Just for the sake of being different here, I will go bring back the 5-3-2 with keeping Roman Celentano in goal. I think the first two against New England are rough. A scorpion kick and then a back-heeled goal around a central defender. The third one we can quibble about. Who knows? Like, couldn't really tell if he got screened or not. McNamara did hit it really hard. He should do better, but that's his first real glaring error that I can think of. And I'm going to go Nelson and Powell playing the wing backs. Murphy left center back, Blackett in the middle, and then Hagland as a right center back. Obi and Moreno as the sixes, Acosta ahead of them, and Vasquez and Brenner.
All right. It's hard to argue with any of those. I didn't see anything like I'd fight anybody on. Besides,
it is tough though. I will say to leave out Barrial. I think I was thinking about just after the game, thinking about the interview that Noonan had on CST before the beginning of the season. He was talking about guys needing to do what they asked of them, learn new positions, try new things, and force their way onto the field. And I really found myself thinking about Barrial after that. He played wing back a couple times and it didn't go great, but he really seized his opportunities in the Open Cup. And has played himself, maybe as pretty written in pen going forward, depending on how they're going to do it formationally or what. But for a U22 guy and somebody with a lot of pedigree, who looked to be frozen out at the beginning of the season, for him to play his way back into the starting 11 potentially, and at the very least, to play his way back into being a contributor for this team is impressive, and I think it should be applauded.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm shocked with Nelson as well. Granted, he got the job more to injury, but never in a million years did I think Nelson would be playing as good as he did in the spot. He was on all three of yours, which is kind of impressive, really.
He's playing good, but at some point his tank's going to run out. He needs that replacement. Yeah. You never know when he might hit an injury timeout as well. So if whoever they bring in, whether it is Danny Toya, who they've been looking at in practices, or if it's just somebody maybe on top of the allocation order.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you throwing that out there. If you guys enjoyed that, if you think there's any glaring hairs that we're missing, please email us or tweet us and let us know. And we would love to point those out internally, especially. But we'll move on to our final thoughts. Miscellaneous. No Ohio Cup. I don't think we touched on that yet. Two UPBL teams, 2 Spanish teams falling through. I don't know. We haven't heard anything official on that, but there wasn't enough time for any of that stuff anyway with ticket sales and whatnot. So we'll see. We got an international game coming up in June. I think that probably put a nail in whatever else was supposed to happen. Anybody else watching Open Cup, or is it dead in your mind?
I'll watch Louisville and Nashville. I'm interested to see that. And I think Union Omaha is still in it too. So
I'm going to have to, I don't even know when the next round of games is. I'll have to turn on tweet alerts for Jeff.
It's on Wednesday. Yeah. I think it's unique where all the games I think are going to be played Wednesday night. I still think that the winner is going to come out of the matchup between the Revolution and NYCFC.
I do a pick'em on Reddit for the U.S. Open Cup, part of the whole FC Cincinnati page thing over there. But I love that competition, and our sub has won at 3 Open Cups in a row. That we're going for 4. We're in first place currently. So I picked 0 lower league teams to advance. I just didn't like any of the matchups. I don't see Louisville beating Nashville. They're the only ones in my mind that got it in the bag if they can pull it off. But
I think if I remember, I think Sacramento is hosting one of the games. Are they playing against
San Jose? Maybe.
No, I don't think it's San Jose. I think it's Portland.
Yeah, I think I would have picked them if it was San Jose.
I can't remember.
I'm looking it up here.
It might be San Jose because Seattle is out.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Seattle is out. Portland is out.
All right. Well, I might eat my words. Although they've been playing okay, they're not this every time. Here's my problem with Major League Soccer is I got like these images of teams 3 years ago in my brain, and unless a team like really takes off and re-races it, that's what I think. So I still in my brain I'm like San Jose sucks, but I don't think. Just like I think a lot of teams around the league, like if you're a fan of LAFC, you're probably just like Cincinnati still sucks, and that's kind of how I am. But it's not always the truth anymore.
I mean, the San Jose was bad until like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, and so I don't think they're as good as they've been playing.
That's what they're saying about us. All right, let's jump into your final thoughts, Jeff. If I took yours, sorry.
No, not at all. I've got. Basically, I can just say that, we've finally wrapped up the end of the European calendar. We got a few small games. We got the Champions League final happening on Saturday. But just seeing all of this happening in the last few weeks, it's really got my juices flowing in terms of following the upcoming season. And I'm going to go all out. I'm going to follow all of the European competitions as much as possible. I've already rubber stamped Ajax. I'm going to probably support teams like Benfica. I'm going through all the leagues and circling a team that I want to support. Heck, I might even take a team from North Macedonia. They impressed me last year. But I know it's a big
Skopje.
Yeah. I know it's a big wait between now and when the European calendar is open again. But once it does open up in August, I'm going to be excited. I hope you are too.
Be prepared in 4 weeks when I ask you how the Finnish league's doing. All right, Nate, give me your final thoughts.
I think just going back to how I opened the show, this has been a fun almost 40% of the season, and I'm really looking forward to the international break. We got one more game on Saturday in Montreal, and I wish I had looked at the schedule in advance because that would have been an awesome road trip. But and then after that, off for a couple weeks. Hopefully, some players can get healthier. The international break will be great. It should be just generally a great summer of soccer outside of FCC too. So you have the women's Euros starting up relatively soon in England. Like was alluded to, I live in DC, so I'm looking forward to catching some Spirit games when they're at Audi Field. But yeah, as the weather is finally feeling summery, I'm excited to watch a lot more soccer and some of it live.
All righty, Jason.
2 really quick final thoughts. First, congrats to Jesse Marsh for keeping Leeds up. That was his job this year, and he accomplished it. And I know it hasn't always gone well for American coaches in the EPL, so good on you. Also, if you didn't see the tweet, I think it was by Grant Wall earlier, like last week, there was talk of NWSL expansion. And 2 of the cities mentioned were Salt Lake City. I got to get my Salt Lake reference in. And Cincinnati. Here's hoping that Queen City FC becomes a thing in the not too distant future, and that Rose Lavelle is on the pitch at TQL Stadium. And also, because of all the ownership debacle at RSL, unfortunately, the Utah Royals had to move to Kansas City, but it looks like they're coming back. I had the pleasure of living as neighbor to a lot of the previous Royals, Amy Rodriguez, Erica Timrak, a lot of those players. Wonderful group of women, and I'll be really happy to see them make their triumphant return as well. So MLS to Cincy. Or MLS, NWSL to Cincy.
Yeah, shout out to Jamie Smet. I see you tweeting every single day, those hashtags. And so keep it going. And if you want to jump on the bandwagon, give Jamie a retweet. She's doing good work out there trying to make sure the topic stays in the forefront. We definitely see ICO. It's encouraging. I agree. If I had the willpower to tweet that every day, I probably would too. But we thank you for tuning in to Cincinnati Soccer Talk tonight. This is fun. You know, if it takes 2 wonder goals and a late 89 minute to beat FC Cincinnati, then it's not the end of the world. We've been worse. But FC Cincinnati can't rest, and I think Pat Noonan's going to get the guys fired up to go. 2 tough ones ahead. We probably are catching Montreal at a really good time to catch Montreal with 2 defeats, so hopefully there can be a result there. FC Cincinnati plays better on the road than at home for some weird reason. That's also a plus. But come back and check out one of our other shorter shows this week, or hit up CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com for some great FCC content. As we mentioned, Nate will have an article coming out later this week. We'll, of course, have a preview for the Montreal. And I think the player ratings are already out, so go check out that kind of stuff. Time for the club to get back on the horse and get some tough wins. We will see you next week.